Hello everyone, welcome to the fourth chapter of this ArgoCD Bootcamp. In this chapter, we are going to cover ArgoCD Sync Policies and ArgoCD Prune propagation policies. So in the last section, we take a look at deploying an application, and in that application, we selected the sync policy as manual. In this chapter, I'm going to cover what happens if we choose the sync policy as automatic. So this is the console, and basically in this chapter, we are going to cover these options here: sync policy, sync options, and prune propagation policy. So let's start here. So I think in the last chapter we covered manual. If I set it as automatic, then we are provided with two more options: prune resources and then self-heal. So basically what prune resources means is, if a particular resource is no longer part of the desired state in Git, then remove that resource. If this box is not checked here, ArgoCD will not remove that resource. We ourselves have to go manually and then remove it using the sync button. Self is another option that we have, which means that if anyone goes out of band of ArgoCD and changes something in the cluster, then if I don't choose this option here, then ArgoCD will just show out of sync and it will not go ahead and then automatically correct that and match the desired state with the current state in the cluster. But if I choose this, it will automatically go ahead and then match the desired state in which is defined in Git with the current state in the cluster. So let's go ahead and then try to deploy an application just like last chapter. So let's name it sample app, and then project name is default, and let me copy the Git repo. So let's keep the repo URL as this, head path is to -application/dev, and just like last chapter, the application dev directory contains deployment and a simple service. Destination, let's select the default cluster, and then namespace, let's say namespace is demo this time. Now let's go back to these options again. So at this point of time, I will choose the sync policy as automatic, and for now I'll not enable these options, and I will show them what happens if I enable them in some moment. Then we have something called set deletion finalizer, and what this basically means is, so when I will come to application set, what happens is application set object is responsible for deploying multiple applications. So if you set this deletion finalizer, what will happen is, if you delete the application set, all those child applications would also be deleted. And prior to application set, we used to have something called app of apps pattern, where you would have a root application, and then that root application would be responsible for spinning up multiple child applications, right? So if you would have deleted that root application and set this set deletion finalizer as true, then it would have also deleted all the child applications as well. Now it can become very dangerous in production, so mistakenly someone deletes that root application or application set, right? Then it would also delete all the application. So you have to be very careful when you set this option and when you don't, right? So at this point of time, let me set it, because this is just a demo and I will not have any dependent resources, so that's fine. Now the next section is sync options, and you can see a lot of options here. So I will put a link of all these options where you can read about all these options in detail in the description as well, but let me go through some of them here. So the first one is the auto create namespace. So in the last chapter, you would have seen that I would have deployed this particular application in a default namespace, but here I'm deploying it in a demo namespace. Now the demo namespace is not existent in this particular cluster. So if I go to the cluster and quickly do kubectl get ns, you'll see that there is no namespace as demo. So what if I choose this option, ArgoCD will automatically go ahead and create that namespace as well. Now the next option is which is very important, which is apply out of sync only. Now this option, what it does is, as the name suggests, it automatically goes ahead and only applies whatever resources which are out of sync based on whatever you have defined in Git. right? So then we have other options as well called prune last, and what prune last will do is it will delete a particular resource at the end. Right now you can also set this in the sync options, or you can have a annotation as well which will help you in pruning a resource at the last, right? We have many more as well, like server side apply, then respect, ignore differences, skip schema validation as well. But here let me only select auto create namespace because that's what I only need at this point of time. And then the next is prune propagation policy. By default this is set to foreground, but we have other three options as well, background and orphan. So basically what happens is, if you select foreground, the object remains visible through the Kubernetes API until the entire deletion process is complete, right? But in background deletion policies, uh, in background propagation policy, the Kubernetes API server deletes the object immediately, right? And control cleans up the dependent objects in the background. And then we have something orphan, which you would have seen in the native Kubernetes world as well, where if you are deleting a deployment with -- cascade equals to true, then it will just delete that particular deployment and leave the pods as orphaned, right? So mostly I've seen that I keep it as foreground and that works, but you can choose background as well, right? And then we have two more options, replace and retry. Now when do you want to use replace? So basically what happens is, if you select this replace, it will not use kubectl apply to deploy a particular resource. It will use kubectl replace or kubectl create command. Now if ArgoCD does that, then what it means is it will for a moment delete that resource, and your application will not be able to serve any request, right? Whether it's a service or a particular deployment, etc., because it's deleted for that particular moment, and then it recreates it, right? So that's what we have replace for. And then we have retry options. So suppose if your application deployment fails for some reason, then you can set some retry limits, right? So in this case the default is 2, but you can increase this to maybe 5 and set the max duration till which it can have a try, and the duration and the factor. Now for now, let me show you the YAML of the entire options that I've selected, right? So here you can see sync policy is automated, and for now I've set prune as false and self heal as false as well. Sync options, as you can see, replace true, prune propagation policy foreground, and create namespace is true. And then I have some retry options as well. Now this one is common to last session as well, but you can see also this finalizer. So this is the finalizer which gets added if you set that deletion finalizer. So if this would have been an application set, then this finalizer would have made sure that whatever application that particular application set would have created, it would have deleted that application as well. So I'll cancel out of this, and let me go ahead and then create this, and great. So last time you would have seen that it would have waited for me to hit that sync button, but this time it automatically went ahead and then synced whatever was in Git, right? And then it just deployed everything to the cluster. So if I go here and quickly do kubectl get pods -n demo, because this time I am using the demo namespace, it would have also created the namespace, plus it would have deployed the application in that particular namespace because I set that create namespace as true, right? So if I do this, and notice that I don't have a namespace.yaml here, so I don't have any object which creates that namespace, right? ArgoCD is taking care of that. That is what happens if you have all those 6 options in place. Now let me go ahead and then show you how these 2 options really work. So if I go here and quickly do kubectl edit deployment and then my app, and let me make the deployment replicas from 1 to maybe 3, right? Now you can see that 2 more pods would have come up, right? So if I go here and look at the ArgoCD console, what you can see is 2 more pods which came up, and this is saying as out of sync, right? And then I would have to manually click the sync button to sync the state. But if I go here and enable self heal, what ArgoCD will do is it will automatically go ahead and delete those 2 pods, right? So let me again show you, right? So I enabled that self heal and it brought the number of replicas back to 1, which is desired state in Git. So if I go here and let me again edit it and change the replicas from 1 to, let me increase the number to 3. And this time if I go here, you'll see that 2 are coming up, but ArgoCD comes into place and then deletes it. That is self-heal, right? Now let me go ahead here and show you the functionality of prune. And what I'll do is here I'll go ahead and then comment this out, which means I don't need the service anymore. And if I commit it and go to ArgoCD and hit refresh, I have to hit refresh because ArgoCD only checks the desired state in Git every 3 minutes by default, and I haven't tweaked that number, so that's why I'm hitting this refresh button. Now here you can see it's out of sync. I'll see that okay, this service should be deleted, right? And now since I have that prune resources as disabled, right, I have to click on this enable button to enable it. So that's why ArgoCD didn't go ahead and then automatically deleted it. Alright, now if I have to do it, what I'll have to do is sync and then click on this prune and then synchronize, right? And then what it'll do is it will then go ahead and then delete this particular service. So that is what I mean by pruning. So as we can see, it deleted the service, and if I go here and quickly do kubectl get svc-n demo, you'll see that there's no service. Now let me go ahead and then enable this, right? And I'll go here and let me repeat this entire process again, which is I will create the service, right? And I'll quickly, it automatically got synced up because the sync policy is automatic, so it synced it. And now since I have prune enabled, and if now I go ahead and comment this out, what ArgoCD will do now is it will automatically go ahead and I have to click on that refresh button. It will automatically go ahead and then find out that this particular service needs to be deleted and delete that particular service. So that's what will happen if we enable pruning. Awesome. There we go. Now let me show you the edited YAML, right? So this is what it will look like. So here you can see now the prune is true and self-heal is true. So this is what I wanted to cover in this section. So as a summary, we set the sync policy as automatic, and then firstly we disabled pruning and self-heal, and then we deployed the application and saw the behavior, and then we enabled pruning and self-heal, and then we saw how ArgoCD behaves and what it does in the background. And then we also looked at prune propagation policy and the various sync options like create namespace, prune last, etc. So hope this chapter was useful for you. So in the next chapter we are going to cover ArgoCD hooks and ArgoCD sync waves. So stay tuned for that. See you all there. Thank you so much.